Indictments are as follows. Number 1. Anwar bin Nasser bin Abdullah al-Awlaki was born on April 21, 1971 in Las Cruces, New Mexico, U.S., and died September 30, 2011, aged 40, in Al-Jawf Governorate, Yemen. He had U.S. and Yemen dual citizenship. He worked as lecturer and imam religious personnel. Both the New York Times and the Washington Post confirm that the executive branch has now expressly authorized the Central Intelligence Agency to kill al-Awlaki no matter where he is found, no matter his distance from a battlefield, and did so without due process of any kind, a direct violation of the Constitution of the United States of America, Amendment 5 of the Bill of Rights. Number 2. Abdul Rahman Anwar al-Awlaki was born on August 26, 1995 in Denver, Colorado, U.S. He died on October 14, 2011 at the age of 16 in Yemen when the Central Intelligence Agency fired a Hellfire missile at the cafe he was sitting in without knowing who were the occupants. His father was Anwar bin Nasser bin Abdullah al-Awlaki. Abdul Rahman was a first-year secondary school student and a U.S. citizen. Number 3. Genocide of a U.S. citizenship bloodline as a result of the executive branch's targeted killings. Refer to Indictments 1 and 2. Number 4. The Bureau of Investigative Journalism. Below are the Bureau's datasets tracking the reported strikes showing confirmed numbers of deaths and injuries to civilians. Pakistan 2004-2014 CIA drone strikes. Civilians killed, 416. Children killed, 168. Injured, 1,122. Yemen 2002-2014. U.S. covert action. Confirmed drone strikes, 61. Civilians killed, 30. Children killed, 6. Injured, 74. All other U.S. covert operations. Civilians killed, 59. Children killed, 24. Somalia 2007-2014. U.S. covert action. Civilians killed, 7. These deaths are a result of the executive branch and continue to be left unchecked by both legislative and judicial branches. Number 5. The oath of office of the President of the United States is an oath or affirmation required by the United States Constitution before the President begins the execution of the office. The wording is specified in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 8. Before he enter on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear, or affirm, that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States, and will to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Indictments 1, 2, and 3 are violations of the oath of office of the President of the United States by Barack Hussein Obama, Jr. Number 6. The Geneva Conventions and their additional protocols are at the core of international humanitarian law, the body of international law that regulates the conduct of armed conflict and seeks to limit its effects. They specifically protect people who are not taking part in the hostilities, civilians, health workers and aid workers, and those who are no longer participating in the hostilities, such as wounded, sick and shipwrecked soldiers and prisoners of war, but also for medical and religious personnel, medical units and medical transports. The conventions and their protocols call for measures to be taken to prevent or put an end to all breaches. They contain stringent rules to deal with what are known as grave breaches. Those responsible for grave breaches must be sought, tried or extradited, whatever nationality they may hold. Section 1. General Protection Art 8. Terminology for the purposes of this protocol. D. Religious personnel means military or civilian persons, such as chaplains, who are exclusively engaged in the work of their ministry and attached, I, to the armed forces of a party to the conflict. Indictments 1, 2, 3, and 4 are grave breaches of the Geneva Conventions and their additional protocols by Barack Hussein Obama, Jr. Number 7. In October 2010, U.S. Congressman Anthony Weiner, D. New York, urged YouTube to take down al-Awlaki's videos from its website, saying that by hosting al-Awlaki's messages, we are facilitating the recruitment of homegrown terror. In November 2010, YouTube removed from its site some of the hundreds of videos featuring al-Awlaki calls to jihad. This was a direct violation of the Bill of Rights Amendment 1 of the Constitution of the United States of America in every aspect by legislative branch and has remained unchecked by the judicial branch. Number 8. When Randall Weaver refused to become an informant, the ATF filed gun charges in June 1990, also claiming Weaver was a bank robber with criminal convictions. Those claims were false. At the time, Weaver had no criminal record and the subsequent Senate investigation found Weaver was not a suspect in any bank robberies. The U.S. Attorney's Office failed to provide Richard's erroneous letter which proved that Weaver had been misinformed about his summons to federal court as evidence to the grand jury, and the grand jury issued an indictment for failure to appear. Ruby Ridge rules of engagement during August 21 through 26 of 1992 were unconstitutional and resulted in the death of Weaver's son Sammy, his wife Vicky, and Deputy U.S. Marshal William Francis Deegan. Vicky was regarded as the family's religious leader. Number 9. The Waco siege was a siege of a compound belonging to the religious group Branch Davidians by American federal and Texas state law enforcement and military between February 28 and April 19, 1993. The affidavit of ATF investigator David Aguilera for the search warrant claimed that there were over 150 weapons in the compound. The paperwork on the AR-15 components cited in the affidavit showed that they were in fact legal semi-automatics. However, Aguilera told the judge, "I have been involved in many cases where defendants, following a relatively simple process, convert AR-15 semi-automatic rifles to fully automatic rifles of the nature of the M16. Aguilera stated in the affidavit and later testified at trial that a neighbor had heard machine gun fire. However, Aguilera failed to tell the magistrate that the same neighbor had previously reported the noise to the local Waco sheriff, who investigated the neighbor's complaint. Paul Fata told the New York Times that he had visited the sheriff after the surveillance had been spotted and claimed that the sheriff's office told them their guns were illegal. In all, 76 Branch Davidians died and 9 survived the fire on April 19. 5 others had been killed in the initial ATF raid and buried on the grounds. 1 had been killed by ATF after the raid, and 35 had left during the FBI standoff. The local sheriff, in audio tapes broadcast after the incident, said he was not apprised of the raid. Alan A. Stone's report states that the Branch Davidians did not ambush the ATF and that they apparently did not maximize the kill of ATF agents, explaining that they were rather desperate religious fanatics expecting an apocalyptic ending, in which they were destined to die defending their sacred ground and destined to achieve salvation. Number 10. The events of Ruby Ridge and Waco siege were cited as the primary motivation for the perpetrators of the Oklahoma City bombing that took place exactly 2 years later on April 19, 1995. The bombing claimed 168 lives and injured more than 680 people. This does not count the death of Timothy James McVeigh, April 23, 1968 June 11, 2001, who was the American who detonated a truck bomb in front of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City on April 19, 1995. He was convicted of 11 federal offenses and sentenced to death. His execution took place on June 11, 2001, at the Federal Correctional Complex in Tahoe, Indiana. McVeigh hoped to inspire a revolt against what he considered to be a tyrannical federal government. Number 11. The Kent State shootings occurred at Kent State University in the U.S. city of Kent, Ohio, and involved the shooting of unarmed college students by the Ohio National Guard on Monday, May 4, 1970. The guardsmen fired 67 rounds over a period of 13 seconds, killing 4 students and wounding 9 others, one of whom suffered permanent paralysis. The National Defense Act Amendments of 1933, Pub.L. 7364, 48 Stat 153, enacted June 15, 1933, provided that the National Guard is considered a component of the Army at all times. Number 12. The National Security Agency has secretly broken into the main communications links that connect Yahoo and Google data centers around the world, according to documents obtained from former NSA contractor Edward Snowden and interviews with knowledgeable officials. By tapping those links, the agency has positioned itself to collect at will from hundreds of millions of user accounts, many of them belonging to Americans. According to a top-secret accounting dated January 9, 2013, The NSA's Acquisitions Directorate sends millions of records every day from internal Yahoo and Google networks to data warehouses at the agency's headquarters at Fort Meade, Maryland. In the preceding 30 days, the report said, field collectors had processed and sent back 181,280,466 new records including metadata, which would indicate who sent or received emails and when, as well as content such as text, audio and video. This was a direct violation of the Bill of Rights Amendment 4 of the Constitution of the United States of America in every aspect by executive branch and has remained unchecked by the judicial branch and legislative branch. In every stage of these oppressions we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A government whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant, as unfit to be the representatives, senators, judges, vice president, or president of a free people, nor have we been wanting in their religious and false flag wars, their taxation without representation, or their false god with no value they call money. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured